So good day everyone, especially to Sir Goku. My name is Sister Navina and I will be presenting to you about the RA 9344, Republic Act 9344 and Juvenile Delinquency and Prevention Act of the United States, particularly their differences and similarities. So to begin with, as it is indicated, RA 9344, it is an act establishing a comprehensive juvenile justice and welfare system, creating the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Council under the Department of Justice, and appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. We have to know that this act promotes the creation of child-friendly justice system, which is focused more on rehabilitation and restoration rather than punishment. This is also considered a child protection measure kasi children in conflict with the law and children at risk are as well biktima rin of circumstances beyond their control. They can be victims of abuse, of dysfunctional families, and insensitive communities. Like, there is a disorganized system happening within their home or sa place na raise yung subject or yung child. And to give you an overview of the Juvenile Justice, Delinquency, and Prevention Act, it is established in 1974. Ano bang purpose nito? Well, just like the RA 9344, but in some areas particularly different. This act provides support for state programs na i-assist yung community to come up with a considerable approach to juvenile crime prevention and to address the needs of vulnerable youth and those of their families early and effectively. In short, yung local community mismo can take initiative or prevention programs in order para ma-influence yung children within sa area nila to be submerged with relevant activities. And again, yung purpose nga nito is to divert the child's attention to recreational activities rather than the child being idle and eventually resorting to delinquency. The Juvenile Delinquency Act applies to those charged before the age of 21 with the breach of federal criminal law occurring before they reach yung age of 18. Well, under this law, as I have mentioned kanina, the states are required to assess and address racial and ethnic disparities in the juvenile justice system mula sa arrest to detention and confinement. The Philippine Republic Act 9344, also known as Juvenile Justice Welfare Act of 2006, the Juvenile Delinquency and Prevention Act of the United States, well, they contain key similarities in their approach to handling juveniles or youthful offenders. And I will give you some key similarities or main similarities that are observed within both laws. So number one is they focus more on rehabilitation over punishment. In RA 9344 in the Philippines, here sa atin, the law promotes rehabilitation and reintegration into society, wherein, as we can remember sa institutional correction, when we say reintegration, it is focused more on the imposition of activities rather than focusing on punitive measures or punishment for CICL or children in conflict with the law. It advocates diversion programs, whether yung job seeking programs or educational programs and other forms that are beneficial and community-based interventions. And in Juvenile Delinquency and Prevention Act in the United States, well, this is similar to RA 9344, and this law stresses also on rehabilitation through educational programs, treatment, and support services. And also, same goal and purpose, they aim to prevent recidivism and ginaguide nila yung juvenile back to their productive lives. Next is the age of criminal responsibility. Here in RA 9344 in the Philippines, when we pertain to this law, initially nakaset nakaset yung minimum age of criminal responsibility at 15 years old pa lang. Well, with the provisions of the law to hold minors ranging from 15 hanggang 18 accountable under certain circumstances. And in Juvenile Delinquency Prevention and the Prevention Act of the US, there is no uniform age across all states. They emphasize on age-appropriate treatments, and most states set a lower treatment um, and their age of criminal responsibility, mostly just like RA 9344, is 18 years old. And is number three similarity is the diversion program. Here in RA 9344, it promotes diversion as an alternative, meaning to say as much as possible they keep out the youth to the formal court system. But still relevant kasi youth they are still using measures like counseling, community service, and other non-custodial dispositions for minor offenses. While in JDPA, the United States, the the act similarly encourages also diversion programs to keep juveniles out of the criminal justice system, offering, yun nga, katulad sa 9344, offering alternatives like counseling, probation, and educational programs rather than putting the youthful offender to jail or incarceration. They, um, as much as possible, they come up with alternative measures. Number 4 is the involvement of families and communities. Here they are similar, RA 9344 and JDPA of United States, because both law they stresses on the importance of family and community involvement in the rehabilitation process of the youthful offender. Kasi, 'di ba, it can be literally viewed that the child ultimately learn their behavior inside their homes. And I think this is a nice alternative kasi they are encouraging family counseling and programs, and they strengthen the family unit to further prevent delinquency. Number 5 or fifth similarity is the protecting of the juveniles' rights. Under 9344 in the Philippines, the law upholds the rights of juveniles, including also the protection of the youthful offender to detention facilities. As you have observed, magkahiwalay yung adult detainees or prisoners from juvenile ones because it is also a part of their right as a juvenile or as a youth. Yun. And they mandate that they be given also proper legal representation and access to education. And in JDPA, US, this is similar to RA 9344 because they protect the due process rights of juveniles, ensuring that they have access to legal counsel, hearings, and appropriate detention conditions. Number 6 point or similarity is the prevention of juvenile delinquency. In RA 9344, this is an emphasis on prevention versus punishment. Uh, the law places the importance on preventive measures including education, family interventions, and social programs para i-address the root causes of delinquency. And in JDPA, it is similar to RA 9344 because it focuses also on prevention. They advocate for, katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, community-based programs, early intervention, strategies, and education to deter the offender to commit crime. And when we say deter, it is to create a fear on the offender to commit a crime before it happens. So let's dive in naman to their differences. In RA 9344, it's much more easy because it seeks to remove only the punitive measures against juvenile offenders, wherein mas focus nga sila on programs that reintegrate young people into society. And in this way, they prevent recidivism. This law advocates for restorative justice and rehabilitation, meaning to say, restoring the youth is more important rather than keeping him in jail. Ganon. And when we pertain to JDPA naman, it also emphasizes on prevention, but this act is more about reducing the number of youth in the justice system, or mas reactive sila of ways and means to eliminate or lower the population of children in conflict with the law or CICL. And also, they are responsible for the funding of preventive programs. And the main viewpoint we can see here is between both laws is that US system is often seen as more punitive with detention and incarceration. Next is the reintegration and social reinsertion. In RA 9344, it stresses social reintegration of young offenders. Paano? They give them opportunity to get into education, skills training, and support for their activities into their communities. And in JDPA naman, they are somehow similar, but the US Act aims for reintegration through community-based services. Pero sa ibang cases, the attention may shift towards to punitive measures before nila i-consider yung reintegration programs such as skills training or educational training, ganon. So, in short, they assess muna kung the child is capable or qualified of being subject to diversion program or to punitive measure or punishment.